What is going on, everybody? Thank you for your patience. I was attempting to get the human design report to show up on the screen. However, the screen sharing is not playing along whatsoever. So I apologize for the patience. I apologize for the wait. However, welcome to Soulvolution. My name is Donald Groves. I'm very grateful for you to be here today. Once again, thank you for your patience. I apologize for the wait. Today in our Soulvolution topic, we're going to be talking about societal labels and whether they're healthy or unhealthy. It really depends on each human being. And do we really understand the labels that we put on ourselves, either if they were adopted by someone else, whether we believe that they're real or not? We're going to discuss that. What we're going to go into is how can we remove these labels, and how can we start reframing these labels? And also, in our own human design charts, how do we acknowledge our shadow side behind accepting these labels, having certain fears, certain being a labeler, for instance. So in human design, one of the gates that's in the splenic area, it is a judgment gate. So if you're a person who just naturally judges others, you don't know why, you just have always done it, it's been innate, and you're just like, there's always slight judgment in everyone. Well, that's because of this specific gate. And that's the cool thing about human design, is usually topics in our own life that we don't understand about ourselves is because of our human design chart and how it ties into our own unconscious, subconscious, and conscious life. All three of those combined into one. For instance, my one gate, gate 28, I'm a master shadow worker. So I'm able to just work with, hi, Suzanne, how you doing today? Hi, Bianca, how you doing today? I'm able to work with my own shadow self and others' shadow work as well, too, if they're human designs. So let's get into it. Societal labels. What we were going to go into is how they're attached to us. I have my notes with me, so I'll be glancing off to the side here and there a little bit. So our societal labels, these labels affect and reflect what we truly believe about our lives. Now, labels start from very, very, very early. Before we're even born, we have these labels of boy or girl, pink or blue, guns or dancing. These labels start from before we even get a chance to figure out who we are ourselves. Hi, Sonia. Good evening. How are you? And what's important is realizing that these labels are not us. So as we get older in our lives, and this is where the Soulvolution really comes into play, is for the adults, honestly, because we start believing that these labels are us. The father, the provider, the hard worker, and that's it. And I only do those certain things and those labels. Or the mother, also the caretaker, the chef. She has all these labels and believes that these labels are her life. Now, the labels that are unhealthy are the labels that we continuously tell ourselves. Bipolar. If someone labels you bipolar, now, there is a percentage of human beings that actually have this bipolar disorder. Or you get labeled with anxiety and you get slapped these pills, or you get labeled with depression. The thing about these labels is do we start believing that these labels are accurate? Do we start believing that these labels are who we really are? Because now we're dancing into a treacherous area, because we are not our behaviors and we are not our labels. They are just a portion of us. Now, I'm not saying that bipolar doesn't exist, and I'm not saying that depression doesn't exist and anxiety doesn't exist. But how many people do you think get these labels given to them when in all actuality, it's just a learned behavior? And from a young age, we were given this label, and now to a certain degree, we believe it. Abraham Hicks says it best. A belief is only a thought that we think over and over and over. So if we continuously keep thinking these same labels and we start believing that these labels really exist, how long is it that we actually believe that we are these labels? Now, in the medical field, they work with conscious thinking. They work with a conscious mind. And there are multiple labels that really exist. And it's like schizophrenia. That's a pretty fair label to give someone. It's a diagnosis. It's a very accurate diagnosis. However, it's also neurological as well, too. And there's work in medicine that can be used along with it. Now, in my field, as awakening coach, I really stray away from using medicines. I like to use meditation, NLP. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, human design, shamanism, spiritual teachings from as much as I can go far back with that. But there are certain disorders and certain labels that exist that really are accurate. So how do we first figure out what labels are healthy or unhealthy? Well, we have to first figure out, is it benefiting or is it harming our life? So labels that were given from a young age, and these labels might, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the computer. So these labels might be accurate for you. Family members telling you, well, you're just a heavy person. Well, that's a label. Now you've been labeled as heavy. Or the label of, oh, you don't know you can't gain weight. So even if this label is real or not, we believe these labels. And a belief is strong. If I believe that I can't lose weight, no matter what I do, no matter what avenue I take of eating healthy, it doesn't matter, because I no longer believe that I can, because this label that was given to me, I believe, is real. So those are two labels that are very accurate in society. A big unconscious or subconscious label is boy or girl. And that's really changing, though, in today's world, which is really amazing. So what I mean by the boy and girl is that, like I said, before we're even born, we're given pink or blue, guns or dancing. Well, I'm not saying boys can't dance. I'm just using it as an example. And women are taught to a certain degree that with this label, because now you're labeled a woman, you're labeled a female. I mean, into the sense of now you're being taught a completely societal structure of how to exist as a human being. Now, obviously, that's changing in this world more and more, coming into the divine feminine and the divine masculine. But the label still exists. So when I was a child, the label of boy meant that I had to act a certain way, respond a certain way, work a certain way, do certain tasks. And if you're born into a poor family, now that's a label yourself. You're meant to work within the societal structure of being a hard worker, not making a lot of money. You go to a trade. Don't go to college. I'm not saying college is good or not. Doesn't matter. It's the label. Since you're born poor, or you're born into a poor family, that's the label that you're given. Necessarily, I don't know if it's true or not. I used to believe certain aspects about label giving, but a belief, once again, is only a thought that we think over and over again. It's something that you're told over and over again. Women, as a woman, you're given this label that that you are more desirable if you do act this way, do this instead of that. Don't become aggressive in certain aspects of life. These are labels that are given. And if you act a certain way, and then you're downtrodden because of the labeling that's happened, because everyone else believes of this structural labeling. Now, it can go even deeper with our educational system. Our teachers telling us and labeling us, oh, can't do as good as the other students. Or the label of he's an extreme genius, putting that child on the pedestal. Even if they are genius, how long can they hold up with that? We don't realize the capacity of what these labels do to us. We don't realize that given these labels are setting up for possible failure. So becoming aware of these labels is extremely important. Becoming aware that you're labeling yourself in this life, even to the extent of, say, if you're a social media kind of person and you do your work on social media. Well, the only way that you can become a great social media aspect is if you become a thirst trap, that you can't get views. And now you put this label on yourself as a thirst trap. Or you create the label of, I don't do this well when I can't. I don't do this well if I don't do this specific way, if I don't do my job specifically. If I put the label on myself, like I'm not succeeding because I'm not selling myself. I'm now believing into this label of I'm not doing it good enough. And now this label is going to start molding the direction of where we're going to go. Hi, how you doing today, Patricia? Hopefully I said that right. So, all right, now we are discovering what our labels are. Now, everyone's going to have their own set of labels, but we really have to look within. We really have to really analyze the labels that we have. So I'll use myself, for instance, labeling myself. I'm a human design guide. That's a label. You know, I'm putting myself into this box of human design. NLP coach, neuro-linguistic programming is what NLP is. So I'm now into that, label myself that. And if I try to do something else other than those two labels I gave myself, I feel like I'm now extending myself too far because I've labeled myself into that box. Or even to the extent of labeling my company, 86 Worries. Now if that label, like if I wanted to expand, I'm getting nervous because, well, I've already labeled myself as this personal awakening coach. That's my label now. I have to follow this path. I can't change course because this is my label. And it's realizing that almost everything we do in our life has a certain label to it or not. And it's realizing if they're healthy or not. And that's where we really start getting, like I was saying before, downtrodden in our life, is because we believe we are our labels. You believe that you are the housewife or the house husband. Is that the actual terminology for that? House husband? So, or that you have to be the hard worker, that you can't go to college because you were born into a poor family, that label. Or the label of being a woman, that you can't work these specific jobs that men do because, or worry about certain sports because you're labeled a woman. And you didn't even get to choose that label. It was just given to you before you're even born. So first step is discovering the labels that we wrap ourselves into. And now really deciphering if they're healthy or unhealthy. Because we get to a point where we start feeling lost in our life. We get to a point where we start losing sight of our authentic self. Because we lose sight of this authenticity, because we lose sight of this authentic self, we start getting into either anxiety, which is living in the future, which there are infinite futures, or we're living in the past of past labels, and that causes depression. You're not a depressed person, you're not an anxious person. These are just behaviors and labels that were given to you by someone else or by your own self-diagnosis. Do you believe that you're an anxious person? Or have you adopted the label of anxiety in your life and now believe that's who you are? There's a massive difference between the two. Do you believe you're the label of depression, that you're a depressed person? Or is it just the label of having depressed behavior? Now, like I said, I'm not a doctor. There are human beings that have chemical imbalances. But the amount of society that is given the label of this is who you are, take these pills because this is who you are, is tremendously in error. It is not accurate. These pills being given to you because you're not staying in the moment of now and you're believing that these labels exist for you is why this is happening. And this is why you're losing sight of your authentic self. This is why you get yourself so worked up because you believe these labels are real. You believe that these behaviors are you when they're not. They're only behaviors. So what do? Now we got to start paying attention to these labels. We have to start picking at them. And this is really helpful when we have either a coach like myself or friends who are constantly around us who are able to notice these labels with us. Because now what we want to do is we want to start picking these labels apart. What we want to do is we want to really start analyzing these labels and really digging into, are they real? Are they healthy? Or are they unhealthy? Simply just saying that I am this person, I am this label, isn't helpful. So what do we do now? So we're analyzing them, and we now realize that we have these labels and that they exist. So now we must start reframing them. Either letting them go, stop believing in them, and start reframing them. Reframing is a beautiful process that is used in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And what I would do is, if I started believing that, all right, I am this personal awakening coach, okay, but it's not who I am. So I would reframe it. That is a portion of, that is a aspect of my life, of helping others awaken to their authentic self. They're using human design or whatnot. Now, how this ties into human design is impatience is for one. So for me, my sacral is, I'm very impatient. So I start getting worked up with these labels, and I'll start trying to force not wanting to have these labels in my life. Or the fears that exist of not being enough without these labels. Not wanting to have these labels in my life. Didn't mean to do that. So now we're starting to reframe these labels. And it's not an easy task because you're at a point where you actually believe that these labels are real. And it's a painful process of trying to let go of these labels. So with my human design, my specific gates that are open, here, let me pull up my human design just so I'm accurate about it. Give me 1 second. All right. So with gate 34, I have a power gate that's open. So what I try to do is I try to power through everything. But the same thing with being my sacral, I hold on to things for too long. I hold on to things for longer than what I should be holding them on to. Also with my roots, my root chakra being undefined in my human design is when I try to do a task and I take on a job, I have this pressure, and I feel that this pressure that I have to get this job done so I can be relieved of this pressure. So with that being said, like with my labels, I now have taken on the task of removing the labels off of me. And with that being said, this label, now I feel pressured and I start getting anxious into the, like, oh, I can't believe I'm acting this way. So I have to be careful of how I go approach it. So with label removing, we have to take advantage of the unconscious mind, and we want to use specific words. Like instead of saying I need to do anything, I want to understand these labels that have been given to me throughout my life. I want to understand why I was given these labels in the first place. And when we use the word want instead of need, we start to really enjoy the process of figuring out what's going on. Also, I have gate 28 that's open in my spleen, my splenic. With that being said, that is all about the shadow work. And so with being a shadow worker and shadow master, in a sense, I'm not trying to be a braggart. It's literally in there. Look up gate 28 out of the spleen of human design. And you'll see that it has to do with shadow work. So for myself, if I do not analyze and I do not reframe these certain labels, I will believe that these labels are me. And I will begin to live my life in the sense of that I am a big boned person, that I can't lose this weight. I was told from a young age by my own grandparents that our whole family is just a heavy family, and that's how and that's a label. And I know there's a lot of people out there who believe that these labels exist about weight control, about your job, that you have to work a specific job, either because of how you were raised or this and that. And that's just a label. The label of any diagnosis. Like I said, there are some people out there who get these diagnoses that are completely accurate, but 97% of humanity that's labeled with bipolar, ADD, ADHD, these labels. And now we start to really feed into these labels, and we start really digging into them, believing that it is us and that is who we are, and that I have to live my life like this. And it's just a behavior, not accurate whatsoever. So within human design, my mind and my ajna, which is the third eye chakras, are wide open, or not open, but defined in my design. With that being said, of conceptual thinking, of I think a very specific way. So if your head center, mind center, and your ajna in human design are defined, then you think very specifically. Now, if these are undefined, like a lot of humans are, you easily take in these concepts that really aren't yours, and you really believe into these concepts. So when you're spoon-fed that you're supposed to act a certain way, you're supposed to be a certain way, you start acting that way. Does anybody have that in their own life? You ever feel that way? Let me see. Bianca, the label is not good when it becomes a box to include yourself. Absolutely. But we're boxing our own self in there. But if we define ourselves, we use these labels. I completely, absolutely agree. Defining ourselves by these labels is not allowing ourselves to really grow and really allow ourselves to be whatever we want. So just like I said, me being a personal awakening coach, I have been given great advice recently about going down the path of shamanism. And at first I kind of was backed up from it because I wasn't sure if I want to let go of the idea of being an awakening coach. But now, because I'm not stuck in that label, but because I believe that label of who I am, I'm not leaving the box, like Bianca best said. I'm not leaving the box to really grow, to really be what I want to be. And that's the thing, is what do we really want to be? How do we know what we want to be until we realize our authentic self? How do we know our authentic self is until we really unravel the labels that keep us wrapped up? It's very interesting. So paying attention to the words you describe yourself. Remember that all a belief is something that we're told ourselves over and over again. Once we really pay attention to the words that we tell ourselves, then we really know where our life is right now. And when I tell myself over and over again that I'm not hitting a certain market, or I haven't become famous, because of that, I now have labeled myself as being unsuccessful. And so that's where the big issue is the words that we tell ourselves is where we're really unconsciously labeling ourselves. If that makes sense or not. And things that we go after. So me wanting to play the lottery over and over again, but not having fun doing it, I'm now labeling myself as being unwealthy. I'm now labeling myself as not having the money that I want. Yeah, that's right, Suzanne. Using the word want instead of need is absolutely priority. When you tell yourself you need to do something, you now label yourself as, or the mind doesn't believe, because the mind believes it's already perfect the way it is. So wanting to really let ourselves be unlimited. How do we let ourselves be unlimited? How do we really escape the box of labeling? How do we stop letting others label us? No, I don't know if we can ever stop anybody from labeling us, but what we can do is stop believing that these labels are real. How do we stop allowing others to convince us that we're less than what we are? How do we stop ourselves from believing that we're less than what we are? Because we're our biggest enemies in this game of labeling. Because we've already been taught our whole life that this is who we are. So if you have any questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer removing these labels and how to reframe them. So reframing the labels would be something as just, I am not my behavior. I am not this bipolar. I am learning how to be balanced would be a reframe. I am learning how to let go of anxiety. I am learning how to accept the past and let it go from depression. I am learning how to be in the present moment of now. Those are certain reframes we can use for either labeling the future or labeling the past. Labeling ourselves for our weight gain, that we believe that we can't lose weight. Well, reframe is I'm still learning how to accept myself for who I am. Because there's no way you're going to lose weight until you love yourself for who you are. But that label of trying to look the way that everyone wants you to look, it's not going to work. So a healthy label, though, I am love. Love is just a label. Yes, it's a chemical emotion that happens within the mind when certain things explode and happen in this direction, but it's still a label. Love. Love yourself. Why don't you love yourself? Well, now you just labeled this person saying that they don't love themselves. Instead, we could coach, it would be more enjoyable to reframe it as, how do we learn to allow ourselves to love? I think it is more easy to escape from the labels the others they give us, and the labels that we unconsciously give ourselves. Oh my God, for sure. Well, because when we unconsciously give our own labels to ourselves, we believe that it's healthy. We believe that what we're doing is in our best interest. So labeling us, and the tricky part about our labeling for ourselves is that we don't even realize that label we're giving us. It's an unconscious label. So it's through a statement that we tell ourselves. When we look at our bank account and we tell ourselves, God, I wish I had more money. Well, that's an unconscious label of saying I've labeled myself as unwealthy or poor. When in reality, we can reframe in that moment. We can catch it, reframe it. When we look at our bank account, like, I'm so grateful for what I have. I am excited for having more. We turn that label. Now there's no label at all. Now it's in the present moment of now. Because that's where the labels really exist. It's the past and the future. In the moment of right now, the mind can't create those illusions. Illusions. Honestly, that's what labels are illusionary beliefs. But it doesn't matter when we get that point of believing. It's so real. So what's another label that we create unconsciously in ourselves? Fitness world is big about labeling. In fact, that's how they make billions of dollars, is through their labeling. And now when you see these other human beings, and this is why I'm a big fan of just not going to the gyms as much anymore. I do my own training at home. And what I mean by that is I'm not surrounded by the imagery of do better, be more, when you're already perfect the way you are. And this is where we can reframe, like, being a little heavy, I really love who I am, and I'm excited for the direction I'm going in my health and weight. I'm excited about the exercising, this and that. Instead of seeing someone else and then beating ourselves up because we're not creating the imagery of that label of being that societal standard. And it even goes the other way. I want to go into a big label right now of the dad bod era. Going into the label of being a dad, you have to have this body of being out of shape and overweight, and that is a label, and that is a label being given out at high doses. Nothing wrong with the way someone looks because of who they are, being a father, if that's accurate, but to believe that this label is real because you become a dad, and to just not aspire to want to lose the weight because of a specific label, now it's becoming unhealthy. Now we're believing like, oh, I'm a dad now. I don't have to give a shit. You know what I mean? That's true. Sometimes our future depends on how we speak to us. So speaking to ourselves is the most important part about the unconscious labels. How we speak to our unconscious mind. Next week, I'm going to be talking about reframing, specifically words about reframing consciously to the unconscious mind. We are our best friends of ourselves sometimes without knowing it completely. Yes. So there are healthy labels. Like I said, when we reframe it into saying, I am love, that's a very healthy label. I am love. I am abundance. I'm abundant. That's a healthy label to give yourself. You are abundant. I'm abundant. The question is if it's being derived from spirit or if it's being derived from ego, is where the healthy and or unhealthy come from. And sadly, most of the individuals that have labeled us in our life have come from egoic standpoints. The teacher, believing that they have to teach a child a specific way, has now labeled you. You not learning the way that you're supposed to learn, you're labeling yourself, oh, I don't learn the way others learn. I must be dumb. The label of the job, I don't do as well as others at this specific job. And we label ourselves with that. And all boils down to how our design really is. So what's cool is knowing our human design in this aspect. So in human design, we have an unconscious and conscious side to ourselves. I know what I'm going to speak is probably gibberish, but my conscious side, my personality is a 4, which is an opportunist. Now, an opportunist is someone who innately knows how to put people together. I know exactly the best way to talk to someone and how to get them to succeed in a certain direction. And I also am really great at finding specific opportunities to expand myself. And my unconscious side is a 6, which is a role model. So being an opportunist and role model, I'm able to put myself into a position where being a business owner, but being a business owner of spiritual nature, in a sense, of being the role model, being the example. Now, understanding this, I'm not going to put myself into a job where I'm not going to succeed because I'm then going to be labeled. I talk too much, or I don't work as hard or as fast as others do. I don't understand the job because I'm not designed to work that way. So knowing our authority and knowing our strategy really helps out with really destroying the negative labels and allowing our authentic self to exist. So, for example, my authority is, in my human design, is my sacral. So with my authority, it's being patient. When I become impatient, I just start going crazy and just start getting super frustrated. My strategy is to be patient. So when I learn that if I can be patient, that these labels do not exist anymore and it melts away. And it's beautiful work. Knowing that I am a general manifester and not a specific manifester really changes the game. I used to believe that everybody could have a vision board and that everyone could just manifest the exact same way. And with not knowing the exact way you manifest, God, you start putting that label up that I'm not meant to manifest what I want. And there we go. Now we have the deep label of unfulfilled. I am unfulfilled. I am a failure. That is a harsh label, unconsciously put on us because I didn't learn about my human design until later on in life. So I believed for a long time that I was doing things wrong, that I had the label of unsuccessfulness. So I would always regress back to working in restaurants. I worked in restaurants for about 25 years. Nothing wrong with restaurants. It's a beautiful career if that's what you're meant to do. However, a lot of us just do it because that we're good at it. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're meant to do it. So, and that's the label right there. I label myself as a restaurateur. And I even told myself at one point in my career of restaurants that I was meant to do this. But when my own awakening happened, I realized that those labels are a travesty of life on ourselves. It's just, like you said, Bianca, that box. The box that we put ourselves into, that we wrapped up, beautiful bow, and we shipped it off. And that's who we are the rest of our life. Now, I believe it's a beautiful thing that some individuals are able to work the same job for 30 years. That is friggin' amazing. However, question, is it out of fear? Is it the label of being unloyal if you leave? Is it a label of being unsuccessful to not venture out? Is it the label of the fear of failure? Which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging by any means, but when we stay at jobs forever and we allow our boundaries to be pushed, we allow things to be trampled upon because of the labels that we have allowed to exist. This may be a challenge in life to become patient, and my work allowed me to increase it. Yeah. It is definitely a challenge to be patient in this life. Absolutely. For me specifically, it's probably one of my biggest challenges in this life is patience. I'm very grateful that I figured this out. But at the same time, so now with doing our human design, when I learned that my main job in this life is to learn patience, well, now if I really let my unconscious go uncontrolled on this, I now believe that I'm an impatient person. See how this trickiness really happens? And this is why the moment of now is absolutely vital with doing this. Now, I believe that every moment I step, I have to make sure that I have to be patient in my life. And now I had the label of my human design is manifesting generator. So a little bit about manifesting generators. A manifesting generator is a 3-part process, okay? With this being said, first you start with either your sacral or your solar plex, one of the two. Then it goes up to your G center. And then from the G center, it then finalizes with your throat center. And I'm getting to a point with this about the labels. So give me 1 second. Let me feed into what a manifesting generator is. So the 3-part process of making a decision. So first, the best way to describe it is you've been invited to go do something. Well, you listen to your gut. You're like, you know what? I want to go do this. Fantastic. Now, being a manifesting generator, you're gone from I want to do this to now I'm going to act out and get it done. So I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go shower. I'm going to get my shoes on. I'm going to comb my hair. I'm going to do all that jazz. All right, that's cool. Now we get to the final process. And that is when we're about to leave. We're about to put our hand on the door and about to get out of here. And in that moment, as a manifesting generator, we say, nah, you know what? I don't want to. I decided that I'm not feeling the vibes anymore. So being a manifesting generator, we have a 3-part process of making a decision. But what I'm getting into is now that I learned that about myself as a manifesting generator, now I labeled myself as a manifesting generator and I'm living my life like, oh, and I'm like, that's just the manifesting generator. I mean, When in all honesty, to really grow is to become uncomfortable. Would we all agree with this? To really grow is to put ourselves in positions of of weirdness, things that you're not used to doing, having discussions with people that you never had discussions with. That's how we grow. But since I put the label of manifesting generator, it's okay for me not to go out because I made that decision not to do it. And that's the label that I have. So it's really difficult to we have to be careful of everything that we put ourselves into, everything that we learn. Because most of us in society we grab upon these labels. So with my human design, now that I know that I'm an impatient person, that's a label. And now I learned that I'm manifesting generator. That's okay not to do whatever I want to do and not have to grow. No big deal. So as Suzanne's, yes, to grow, we definitely have to get uncomfortable, without a doubt. But these labels that we have do not allow us to get uncomfortable. These labels we have, these labels that we believe that we have, keep us in that box, like Bianca says, and we don't grow. And we believe that we are that person. One of the hardest ones, I believe, is for women. Being labeled a woman. Especially back in the day, being labeled the housewife, being labeled the cook, being labeled the caretaker. All these labels, and forgetting about your authentic self as this divine feminine, this creature of just, because Earth is a divine feminine, and it's a harsh label to be given. Men are given a label, especially Caucasian men. We have it the easiest in life with our labels. We really do. I don't care who you are. You can argue it all you want. It's the truth. But that label is still in itself as being labeled masculine, means having to do this. But with the changing times, what's really fascinating is looking at today's world. Let's look at today's world, right? The labels are changing. Feminism is changing, masculinity is changing, and everybody is in a tizzy about it. I think it's beautiful. I'm glad to see. Let's shake the jar. I want to see it get stirred up. I want to see how do we act when we remove those blankets of security away, when we take away those labels that have defined society for how long? How long have we been defining ourselves with these labels throughout the ages? And now everybody is in a tizzy about it. The cancel culture, that's a label in itself. People who are joining the cancel culture, you're now being labeled that, and you believe that you have to follow specific guidelines. Just because one thing's okay doesn't mean that something else is just as fine. But since you're in a cancel culture, that's your label now. Like everything is canceled. That's not right. That's not right. That's all right. Once again, we just stepped into a whole new label. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that labels, yes, people are becoming their true authentic selves more and more. But I ask you this, Suzanne, are people becoming more authentic selves, or are they creating a hero ego? So that's what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure it's safe to say labels, unhealthy labels, is the ego. If that makes sense. So unhealthy labels are everyone else's ego and ourselves, our own ego, responding to us. And now, what I mean by the jar being shook is it the ego, like Eckhart Tolle says, going over here and becoming the hero ego? The hero ego is when we start judging the regular ego. Look at that label. Whoa, look, and learning the lingo, learning the spiritual lingo, learning how to do this in spirituality. That's the hero ego. So now we're pointing at the other ego like, how dare you respond that way? When love and light is the way we're supposed to be. Hero ego is when we judge ourselves for acting a specific way. That hero ego is that hidden label. Is that the hero? So like I said, the hero ego is when it learns the terminology of spirituality. So here's the thing about being in the non-moment of now is when we start awakening to our authentic self, we realize that we haven't been healthy in our decision making. So now this ego is being beat up on. And so here's the thing is the ego is human. The more you beat up on the ego, the more you beat up on your own human self. So now the hero ego has been created to help beat up on the ego. Now we're just in that spiral of keeping that behavior going, keeping that label going. But now the labeling is completely different because now you think it's healthy labels. And you believe that these healthy labels are slamming the ego. You know what I mean? It's fascinating. When all it is is stepping out of the moment of now, stepping out of the design, that beautiful. And like I said, the only healthy labels that really exist are the ones that we have affirmations. I am love. That's a label. I am abundance. That's a label. And I'll damn sure tell you it's a healthy label. You are abundance. I am creation. I am whole. I am complete. Label, 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 label. But they are healthy labels. And I don't know another way to reframe that. Anything else that is less than those specific labels is ego. It is the voice of damnation. It is the voice, and I say damnation not for heaven and hell, but I believe that, and I say believe, it's thin belief, but that heaven and hell is just a mindset that exists in this world as we live. With that being said, so now we're labeling our ego and that we aren't doing good enough in our spiritual work. Just like I was telling you the other day, Suzanne, it's whatever you want to do. You don't have to do a specific meditation. You don't have to do a specific, there's no chakra that you're supposed to do it a specific way. It's not meant for that. Whatever feels right to you, that is what is beautifully living in the moment. Because now if we don't do it a specific way, but with that label that I didn't do this specific meditation the way I was supposed to, hey, Faye, how are you doing? Yes, ego, ego, ego. Ego, ego, ego. Pretty close to ego, ego, ego. What are you going to do? Lego my ego. So, but with that, I just got off track. So, but if we put the labels on like, oh, I can't do, I have to do this meditation first this way. Well, with that label, we now believe that it's not being done accurately and that we're not going to be stuck. And that's the hero ego. That's the hero. You didn't do that right. Your spirituality is not accurate. And that's a bunch of BS. It's not real. Because now we left the moment of now. And only in the moment of now, the ego doesn't exist. Only in the moment of now, the mind can't create Lego my ego. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, there you go. Lego my ego. Should make a sticker out of that. Shit. I am a smile pusher. I like to give a smile wherever I go. I think a good given smile could change the way others and those react to you magically. Yes. Well, I'd like to ask you, is it a forced smile or is it an innate smile? So I believe to a certain degree that, because I feel exactly how you feel. So I guarantee you might have a 6 in your design as being a role model, being the example. But were you raised a specific way that you had to put on this mask? And that's a label in itself too. Hey, make sure you smile because you get what you want when you show a smile. That's one of the worst things I hated as a bartender. I don't like to use the word hate, but hey, I'll give you a better tip if you smile. F you, buddy. Keep your money. You know what I mean? It's like, argh. But it's believing in that label that it is what's the negative side of it. I believe a smile is absolutely fantastic. No, that's amazing. So I wasn't trying to be like being questioning to you, Bianca. She said, no, it's forced. In reality, I am a happy person. This is easy to. So for you, yes. But for a lot of individuals that put on that fake smile, everything's all good. It's having a great day. I love my life. You know what I mean? When underneath is a pool of labels, of sadness, of ego that is just, it's disheartening. A smile is a gift to give if it's not forced. I agree. As long as it's not, the question is are we smiling to ourselves? I completely agree with you. That is definitely a gift that a lot of people, because you're right. Both Bianca and Faye, you're both right. Oh, happy Mother's Day coming up here, everybody. So that forced smile is making sure that it's not a label that was given to us throughout our entire life, or even a label that we gave ourselves to believe, if I give this smile today, I'll be a better person. That's what I mean by that. And I wasn't attacking it. I love the smile too. Smiling's my favorite. No, you know what? Hugs are my favorite. I like giving hugs. I like that label. I love hugs. I'm a hugger. So the question really is we're looking into our human design chart and making sure that we're in a healthy, egoic state. Human is ego. Ego is human. The moment we start judging our ego and the moment we start judging our labels is the moment that these labels have control over us and our ego has control over us. However, if we stay in the moment of now and we start reframing these labels in a place of authentic love. So you see this label that someone gave you like, oh, you're bipolar. Get over here. I love you so much. However, I believe, yes, we are surrounded by labels all the time. It's very important to, so I have to be honest, with my own awakening that happened many moons ago, I really removed myself from societal imagery. I really removed myself from watching TV. I removed myself from sporting events. I removed myself, and I didn't remove myself from anything that I was missing by any chance, but I removed myself from external labeling that seeps into the subconscious mind. Letitia, you said it best. Hi, Gaetano. How are you doing? Good evening. So in these labels, they just seep into the subconscious mind. So the less and less that we put ourselves into those arenas of labels, into that is all surrounding us at all time. Buy, sell, get, weight, fat, skinny. Our life becomes a lot easier when we get rid of the noise. So I agree with you about that. It's very wise, Letitia. What I was saying, I got off track. I'm really easy at getting off track. So it's finding in the moment of now of loving the labels as best as we can and reframing them in the moment of now and not attacking them, because the moment we attack our labels is the moment that the hero ego steps in with that fake cape, standing into the wind and saying, I'm better than you. I'm better than your ego, but I am just the ego with another face, another mask. So we have to be careful of that. In human design, our heart center is actually our ego center. So my ego center is undefined. With that being said, the label of I don't believe that I'm good enough is a major label, because since it's undefined, I believe it's never enough. That I have to continuously doing more. That what I do is just not enough. And that's a pretty shitty label to have. But with that being said, it's believing that it's not real. And in the moment of now, I am enough. However, on that flip side, though, someone who has a defined ego center, a defined heart center, you can really expand on that ego. And not like doing the pointing and blaming, but like believing that you're better than everyone else, which is nothing wrong with that. It's if there's a way that we can have a large slice of humble pie with thinking of how confident and great we are, that combo is something to be told. So let's recap a little bit about today, guys. I really dislike labeling too. It's really disheartening that most of society today, and I'm not saying that anxiety doesn't exist, I'm not saying that depression doesn't exist, but I really dislike that everyone is just being labeled, you're anxious. Now, I talked about this earlier, that you're anxious and that you're depressed. Those are just behaviors. Those are just labels. You are not your label. You are not your behavior. You are infinite creature of creation. And here's a list of healthy labels that we can give ourselves. I like to do mirror work. I'm a big fan. And I'm also a Leo, so I don't mind looking at my face in the mirror. It's a good time. But the mirror work involved with this is I am whole. Let's give ourselves that label. I am complete. I am abundance. I am love. I am a smiler. Oh, without a doubt, Faye, he has such a cool name. That's who got me into the Bridges of Light in the first place, was Gaetano. Beautiful man, too. Every time I've talked with Gaetano, it's absolutely just a pleasure. Sorry, back one point. Is those are the labels that are healthy. And those are the labels that if we continuously keep telling ourselves that, those other negative labels start to slip away. I am anxiety. It's okay that you believe that, but in the moment of now, you're not. You're just looking into a future event that doesn't exist yet. I am depression. Oh, that label isn't real as well. It's okay that you believe that in this moment, but if we really look at it deeper, depression is just not letting go of the past. And instead of being labeled those, how about letting go of those? And just sitting still in that moment and smiling to ourselves. Bianca, you are 100% right about smiling is a beautiful, and Faye saying that a smile is a gift. One of my favorite things to do in my meditations, whether for myself or to my clients, is smiling. Smiling literally changes the demeanor of the client in the middle of the meditation. Smiling is a beautiful gift as long as it's not a mask. As long as it's not a label that you were taught your whole life that you have to smile, that you have to do this to be in a good mood, when you are the good mood. Yes, Faye, you are love. You are complete. You are whole. You are abundance. You are creation. You are God. We all are. And anything less than that is ego. So if we can start really paying attention to the labels that we give ourselves and to expand on them, to recognize that if they're healthy or not, are you that executive? Are you that label of a producer? Are you the label of awakening coach? Are you the label of mom? Are you the label of wife, husband? Are you those actual labels? Are you the label of heavy, thin? Is that who you really are? I dare say not. And in the moment of now, we're able to let go of these labels. We're able to accept for what is and to acknowledge the existence of everyone else around here. Yes, you did smile during your Reiki session yesterday. That is accurate. I can't remember what chakra we're working on, but yes, you felt the energy. It's a beautiful energy. I love Reiki so much. I wouldn't be here right now without it. That's for sure. All right. I have faith. I don't hope anything. I have faith that we really enjoyed today's session talking about labeling. Soulvolution, what we're here for about Soulvolution is expanding our mind, thank you so much, Sonia. Expanding our body and strengthening connection, evolving the connection of our soul. The soul exists, but if we're not aware of our authentic self, it's a weak connection. The more we start diving into the belief of our authentic self is when of who we are, we strengthen the connection and evolve the soul. Oh, you made your own day better by coming here today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Mama. I love you. So the labels, are they ego? Are they not? Be careful of the labels you give yourself and be careful of the labels you give others, because it's a great marker of where you are in your own life. When you label somebody else, really look back on yourself and see what label you have for yourself. And stay in the moment of now if you can. In the moment of now, the ego can't create those labels for you. I'm all over the place. Sorry. So with these labels that are being produced, are they ego? Are they authentic and unique? Next week, I will be doing Letitia's human design report. So we're going to actually start next week with her human design report, going over it. Oh, absolutely, Bianca. I am so grateful that you came today. Thank you so much. Very enjoyed. We'll be doing her human design report first into the show, and then we will be going into my favorite subject, and that is the conscious to unconscious talking, the words that we tell our unconscious minds, and reframing specific words. Now, this is going to be a tricky area because some of my closest friends, my family, we disagree about specific words that we tell our unconscious mind. They believe that it's actually quite okay. My belief says that it's not. So it's kind of tricky in that area, talking about those. So next week, we'll be doing a brand new design chart. And if anybody who wants to get their human design chart read online, you know what I mean? What I'll do is I'll put it up on screen share and we'll go over the human design report. If you want your human design report done in a brief synopsis in the very beginning of the show, please message in here and let's get it to us. Like I said, next week it's going to be Letitia. I hope I say your name right. If not, please let me know. I apologize if I'm not. And we're going to be doing her design report first, going into the different aspects of the conscious and unconscious of the design. And then we'll be going into specific conscious to unconscious speaking. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm grateful that you're here. I wouldn't be here without any of this. Thank you so much for everybody for coming today. And remember, you are beautifully right where you are. So do your best and 86 the rest. Namaste.